Good afternoon, everyone. No, go for it.
Trying to sit in the order of the picture.
So the topic today we have is called the new rules of attention. And unfortunately, I think in the market today, there is a perception that people have diminishing attention. Now, I want to actually, this is going to be a bit off the script, but I want to ask Mike Lee here what he has been doing, even up to the minute that we had to get him off his seat because he was looking at his mobile phone. Can you tell us exactly what you've been doing for the last 6 hours?
Watching the World Series. Go Dodgers.
He's
They're
not
in
lying.
the-
He's not lying. I saw it.
So he's telling me that he's watching the World Series. It's the Dodgers versus the
Blue Jays.
Toronto, and he asked me if I was a fan. And he goes, "This is now going into like the 18th inning now because I don't really watch baseball. I have really no context as to what that means. But this is a baseball match that has been going on for 5 hours, and he's still watching, despite the fact that he's supposed to be on stage. So now the question is, do we really have a problem with attention? I'm pleased to introduce Mike Lee. Mike is from Los Angeles. He is an agent at UTA, United Talent Agency, all the way from Los Angeles. Give it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have Mr. Fred Chong. Fred Chong is the founder and group CEO of WebTVAsia, and he comes to us from Kuala Lumpur. Apa kabar?
Kabar
Any
baik.
other Malaysians in the room? So as I mentioned earlier, there is a perception that people have very short attention span. People are scrolling through things. And when I first started in the industry a while ago, we were told that if you're going to do a video online and keep it under 3 minutes. Recently, I spoke to a few other people. They told me keep it under 9 seconds. And I said, how do you do a video in 9 seconds? And they told me, Kevin, don't you get that people have this goldfish attention span? So I Googled what that is, and Google's AI tells me that it's a myth because goldfish are known to have attention spans of up to 3 months or so, and it's fake. And coming from a news organization, we fact check everything and we do a fair bit of that. But I want to jump straight into the question. I'll start with Mike, maybe, really. Are you seeing attention spans really shortening and people have less and less of a patience, or is it a matter of, good content?
I think attention spans are definitely shorter, but not because we have the memory of a goldfish, but because our time is more precious. So when there's just so many more options to where you can spend your time, whether that's online, whether that's on a social platform, whether that's playing a game, watching content. And so because time is more precious, if you think about just early media in like the early 1900s, like there was only 2, 3, 4 TV channels. Now we have hundreds, if not thousands of channels. We can now look at Chinese content, Korean content, Japanese content, and our own native content. So because of that, we need to actually spend more time trying to drive people to good content. I think that if long-form content was dead, you still wouldn't have YouTube, you still wouldn't have podcasts and video podcasts. So really it's about being able to drive people to the content where they want to spend their time and where it's worth spending their time.
So really making it worth my while because, I have a lot of work, we all do, we have a lot of conferences to go to, and, if you're going to throw a piece of content that is really poorly produced, then I'm not going to do that. Is that becoming, have you seen that happening through the work that you've done with your talent, and have they been just producing 3-second videos?
It's all about clipping now, right? So it's about driving clips from your long form to become a larger funnel to drive to the content that's actually going to make you money, right? So the content like YouTube, where you can monetize a 10-minute video and run 7, 8 different mid-rolls within that one video, is becoming less and less engaging because people can't find it, right? A long time ago, it's like if you make good content, people will come. Nowadays, you actually have to hunt and find people because they're spending all their time on news feeds, right? Algorithms are telling them what they should watch, and not necessarily what's great content, but what's grabbing them for 3 to 9 seconds.
Fred, what is the trend in Asia?
So you actually gave me that question before I came on. So I did a bit of homework. So WebTVAsia is a YouTube MCN company. So we manage thousands of channels. So I go to my dashboard and then I look at what was the stats last month. So last month we did about 7 billion views. And out of that, right, there was the time spent in the 7 billion views was 20 billion minutes. So that means about 3 minutes per video. That is quite long. So to me, right, and that's very important because we go to Google and then we actually claim how much they owe us from the views. So these are quite valuable stats. So and then it's platform agnostics as well. So YouTube, I mean, I think Google talk about how 50% of the views from YouTube now are spent at home on the smart TV. So it depends. So if you're TikTok, if you're Snap, then yeah, short form. But YouTube, I think people still spend a lot of time watching longer form content.
What are you doing? Are you watching more long or more short? Your answer was quite diplomatic, but I want to know what you're doing from an Asian perspective.
So I actually do a lot of scrolling, so I actually watch a lot of short form as well. But then again, selectively depends what time of the day. So if it's at night, if I have more time, then I'll watch longer videos like the interview with the CEO, and it's like 2 hour per video sort of content. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I agree with Fred because I think time, place, and context is really important in all this and how we consume video. So when someone sends me a video when I'm in a meeting, yes, I will watch that video in the meeting. But if it's a 30-second video, I'll watch it, I'll comment it, I'll send it off back to my colleagues so that they can make some edits. But if they're going to send me a 30-minute video, I'm never watching that in a meeting, or I might watch that when I get home or when I'm back.
Or
at
when
my
we are
desk.
flying in on the plane, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
or I'm back at my desk. So I think that I don't envy the work of creators because the creators now have to create all sorts of content for all sorts of platforms, for all sorts of environment. I want to jump to the next. So in summary, I would say this: you got to be really good at creating good content because in the old days. You had like 2, maybe 3 television stations. So you'd be flicking back and forth and you would stop at the third station that maybe had a piece of content that was interesting to you. Today, you are skip, 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 or it's the through with the thumb. So in order to catch my attention, I think the content is king still works very, very well. I want to jump to the next question. We'll start with Mike first because throughout the last couple of days, and we've constantly, and I heard it right before lunch as well, we heard a lot of creators talk about coming to Asia. They're really, really big in Asia, in the US or in parts of Europe. They are coming to Asia, and a lot of people talk about China. Mike, in your experience working with some of your talents, could you share what are some of the pitfalls and misconceptions? Is there really a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow in this part of the world?
I think it depends on the creator. I don't think every creator can go into China. I think understanding and respecting the culture is a big part of how you actually get into the hearts and minds of the local population. And so, yeah, I have a lot of clients that say, hey, I want to do what Speed did, right? I want to go to China. I want to be able to tour, and I want to be able to give people that intimate perspective of what it looks like to be a citizen and live a day in the life of a Chinese 18 to 24-year-old. But not every creator is right for the Chinese audience. And so I think for us, it's not about what does that pot of gold looks like, but how can you actually be a conduit of showing what is happening there, and vice versa, showing that content back to the U.S., right? So whether that's, I think Kluk was on earlier, whether that's bringing more tourism there, or whether that's exposing new types of trends. I think for us, when we used to think about China 10, 20 years ago, we used to think that they were, 5 years behind, 10 years behind. On the music side, we used to always think that, when your touring career is done in the Western side, that's when you tour East, that's when you tour Asia, that's when you tour China. But now the trends are actually happening in China first. And so now we're looking to the Doyens and the Bilibili of the world and seeing what's attracting there, and seeing if that would actually attract in the US audience or the Western audiences.
Have you personally experienced working with one of your talents who's gone into China, they've learned a few things that you I guess what I'm trying to ask you is what is that secret sauce for anyone that is now thinking of getting into, from a Western perspective, getting into China or the rest of Asia, it doesn't need to be China, in terms of what are things that you should avoid?
I think it's just being respectful, right, and being having some humility, because some of the personalities we deal with are so such a big personalities, that sometimes that doesn't translate one-to-one to the Chinese culture or even the Eastern culture. So for us, it's really understanding and bringing someone that's actually activated or finding a partner local in China to actually educate our clients before they make that move. And I think it's about making sure that if they spend their time there, because our clients, every time they're away from their computers or anytime they're away from their team, they're actually losing money. And so if they're going to make the commitment of going on a 13-hour flight and spending a week in China, it has to be worthwhile and fruitful. Whether that's fruitful in terms of making money in China or using that kind of content to make money in the US.
I think being thoughtful, respectful is always the way to go, and obviously a strong understanding of what works. What works at home doesn't necessarily work elsewhere, and if you are going to start working with people in other markets, then that minimum level of respect is obviously needed.
Yeah, because the rules are always changing, right? And I think like I just recently sent a client with Adidas with James Harden to Shanghai. And they all had to wear long sleeve shirts even though it was super hot because they couldn't show tattoos anymore, right? And that wasn't a policy that they had 3-4 years ago. And so my client was like, why do I have to wear a long sleeve shirt? So the idea of that culture is constantly changing and you have to kind of stay abreast of that and be respectful is a big thing that we talk about our clients whenever they mention going to China.
Fred, I want to ask you the reverse. Since we're both Malaysians, I want to share a very proud creator that's Malaysian, and his real name is Nigel Ng, aka Uncle Roger. So is he the most famous Asian that has made it in the Western world? I mean, or do you know of others and you want to share with us? So I guess my question really is, are there good examples of Asian creators now breaking out in other parts of the world? I mean, I know for the Westerners, it's China the other way, but for the Asians, the US is clearly the big market.
Can I give you a long answer? So, first of all, I really enjoy coming, to the Creator Week, and I learned so much from so many big creators. But one thing I would say is that there's so many people on stage that talks about how, Asia, China, big gold mine, come here and make money. But there's so little conversations about how we Asians actually go US and make money. So any Asian creators actually make money in US? Anyone? No. Shouldn't we learn how to make money from here and make it in US? So there is too little discussion on this. I mean, great to have a Creator Week in Asia, but shouldn't Asian actually learn how to make money in US? So WebTVAsia, 99% of my content on my channels are non-English speaking. But we drove like 7 billion views last month. 99% are non-English. And there are a few reasons that the answer is actually very hard for Asians to go to US and make money. Why? Because they don't care. They don't care about Asian content. But I would say 30% of that 7 billion views actually come from US. Why? Because there's a diaspora community in US that actually cares. So the Vietnamese, the Thai, the Malaysians, the Indonesians, the Filipinos that are in US are consuming non-English speaking content. How do we talk to them? So that's one thing. The other thing, one of my most successful channels from Asia that actually broke into US is a channel called Li Ziqi, a girl who cooks in the mountain in China. She started with 0 subscribers. Now she has, the last time I checked, 28 million views, 28 million subscribers. Why? Because her content is no dialogues. It's just food channel, but there's no language. So to me, that's not a secret sauce. But if you want to be universal, you have to take the language out. There's also a discussion about dubbing, and my answer is dubbing doesn't work in China. It'll be good for Mr. Beast to dub his voice in Chinese, or it'll be interesting. But if someone like me dubs my Vietnamese into English, I don't think I'll get the views. So the successful content in Asia be authentic, and everybody talks about Squid Game. They don't dub, but it's the most viewed content in Netflix. So the other thing about to go back to Uncle Roger. Uncle Roger is successful because he's just like Psy. He's fitting into the stereotype of what Asian looks like, or what Asian should be, or sound like, or should be funny. But Mike brought up a really interesting point. Nobody likes Uncle Roger in the U.S. Why?
Why is that? I watch Uncle
Yeah,
Roger.
please.
He's like, you know.
I mean, he's funny, and I think he went viral in the States, but like being an Asian American, born and raised in Los Angeles, he's everything that we fought against growing up, right? Like, when we found out that his accent was inauthentic, us as Asians, he's monetizing on the things that, us as minorities in America got made fun of. And so like that to us was really inauthentic. So Uncle Roger might be authentic to you guys in Malaysia, but he's not authentic to us in Los Angeles, right? So amongst our friends, amongst our peers, we're not big fans, but yeah, totally understand the niche of how he represents the rest of Asians across, but just doesn't represent the Asian American.
And Mike, you mentioned that Uncle Roger, although signed to a talent agency in the U.S., has not really signed many major sponsors.
Yeah.
Is it precisely because of that?
Yeah, I think so, just because he's just not authentic.
He's signed to an American company, right?
Yeah, he signed to one of our rivals. He's with one of our rival talent agencies. But I'm the first to critique talent agencies in the U.S. I think they've looked at even our own agency. We've looked at the East more as a bridge, but that bridge was always one way. It was always asking our partners, the Chinese MCNs and our Southeast Asian partners, what can you do about our clients? How can you make our clients a lot of money, and how can you grow our clients, fan bases in East Asia, etc. But we've never really asked the question of our Asian partners, how can we actually grow your partners in the U.S.?
Kelvin, one interesting point you brought up, Uncle Roger in the U.S. If I were to, you and I, as Malaysian, right, I would highlight that the other Malaysians that are doing well in U.S. is a guy by name Ronnie Cheng. So he is not a typical stereotype Malaysian or Asian. He's that angry guy who stand up for himself and try to break stereotypes. So I would say that would be a better example.
Yeah, but I mean, like your example of that, lady who's cooking in the mountains of China, like that's very authentic, right? And that's why we want to see that, because she's giving us a perspective that we would never have in the States. And so for us, it's driving curiosity. It's driving, a very how do the other side of the world lives, and it drives curiosity. Whereas, and so it's very authentic to her. So, we engage and we want to learn more, right?
The other interesting Asian content that I'm seeing that actually has a universal appeal, it's a couple of channels that we represent in Thailand, that is LGBTQ. There's none in the world that no such beautifully produced, like almost like a Korean drama idol content that is targeted for that community. I'm talking about beautifully handsome guys and pretty girls.
Fred, you were telling me there was a billboard.
Oh yeah,
promoting this
so
at one of the resorts outside?
There's a billboard of the two Thai girls that are famous for LGBTQ content that is now having a sellout fan meet in Macau.
Sure. So I want to jump. Sorry, thank you. I want to jump off to something slightly different. So I work for a company called the South China Morning Post. Very unsexy. We still print a newspaper. We are the newspaper of record, although most of our readership actually come from digital and increasingly social. And so I want to, say something really bold and something controversial here. This company is 122-year-old, and we are the original or the OG creators. Every day we create 30 pages of these, 200 odd stories. We just don't call them creators, we call them editors and reporters. But we've been at this for 122 years old in Hong Kong. Thank you. But having said that, I want to throw this question to Mike. Have you seen what are our creators doing in the, obviously in the social space, in the offline space? What are they doing with traditional media like us? Because at 122, we have to trust people know us. And what effects have you seen that take them to, if any at all?
I mean, I'm not sure if this is a trend or part of the meta in the Eastern side, but I mean, for us, like true crime is huge, and you're seeing people like Stephanie Sue who are able to really look at content and find the stories that they want to explore, and they do their own investigative journalism. Whether that's, I know some journalists are against that, but I think the idea that now creators can find the stories that they're interested in. The podcast Serial, it drove, a case to be opened up again. It drove a TV series. So the idea that creators can now pick and choose and highlight and platform stories, I think is a great phenomenon, and it kind of democratizes, being able to share stories and take some of that control into their own hands.
I think we like South China Morning Post. So a lot of my creators, when they are highlighted like by the article, they feel they are being seen and being recognized. So it's a good medium for creators to go out of just being a creator, but being on the mainstream news.
Sure. So one last question from Fred. What's next? Where else can creators make money? We know ads, we know e-commerce, we know all this stuff. What is next in your mind?
So you were saying if I have money, where would I put it? I will put it in AI.
Great. You have it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Fred.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike.